Welcome back. Shakeup on the Wisconsin Elections Commission this week with Republican Commissioner Dean Knudsen, who hasn't backed the lie of widespread fraud in Wisconsin's election. He resigned, even as the commission weighed who to elect as its next chair.
Today, I'm announcing my resignation from the Wisconsin Elections Commission. I'm a conservative first and a Republican second. It's time to pivot away from conspiracy theories to kitchen table issues.
Running to be the next chair, Robert Spindell, a Republican commissioner who also posed as an elector after the 2020 election. He signed his name to false paperwork submitted to Congress claiming the election for Donald Trump. He's also backed the false claim that the 2020 election was rigged. Political reporter Will Kenneally sat down with Spindell this week.
So we're speaking with Wisconsin Elections Commission Commissioner Bob Spindell. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So first I want to ask you about the news from last night with your fellow commissioner, Dean Knudsen, announcing that he's going to resign soon. How do you think that will shake up the commission?
Well, we were all surprised, at least I was, to hear that Dean was going to do that. Obviously, that calls for another person that will take his place as a Republican appointee to the board, and Speaker Voss will make that appointment.
And do you have a sense of, I mean, personally, you are serving on the board right now. Do you have a sense of who you'd want to see Voss replace Knudsen with?
Well, I think Speaker Voss has a pretty good idea what he would like to do. He's a smart guy, and we'll leave it up to him.
So as you run for the chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, we saw earlier this week that you were endorsed by gubernatorial candidate Rebecca Kleefisch. What does it mean to have that kind of Republican support behind you?
Well, I think that support, I really appreciate her supporting me like that. And also, I've gotten an outpouring of support from various Republicans throughout the state. The Wisconsin Election Commission sent me over the last 2 days over, 54 pages of 2 or 3 or 4 emails supporting me on that. And there was only one of those, at least, that we found that was negative. So also, I was at the Republican convention right there in Middleton, and I'd say 60 or 70 people came up to me during that time to say how much they appreciated everything I was doing. So I think I've certainly got the support of the grassroots of the Republican Party, so we'll see what happens.
And so knowing, too, I know we spoke off air a little bit, that you can't necessarily speak to the legality of this, but knowing, too, that you were a part of the Republican electors in 2020, that's raised some concerns from Democrats. If you were the chair of the Elections Commission, how would you assuage some of those concerns from moderates or Democrats?
Well, again, as I indicated, I really can't discuss that, but it's that's something that happened 2 years ago. I think every indication is that had Trump won Wisconsin, the Democrats would have done the same thing. It's they basically, the attorneys wanted to keep their options open, and certain deadlines had to be made, and we filled out the paperwork.
So you don't think that would have any bearing, certainly, on your ability to be kind of even-handed as you would lead the committee?
No. But let me say, while it's an even-handed type situation, the election commission is made up. It's a little different than most commissions. The appointees to this commission were appointed by various elected partisan officials, and we are their partisan appointees. We are not nonpartisan. We are partisan. There's 3 Republicans. There's 3 Democrats on this committee. We're not judges. We're commissioners, and we need to fight it out to make sure that the best answer or solution is for the people of Wisconsin. But at the same time, it's our responsibility, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, to watch out for the parties and make sure that the parties' interests are represented. And 50-50, 50% of Republicans are the voters, 50% of the Democrats. So that's a very important thing for all commissioners to remember.
So even that partisan bickering, that's a good thing for you?
Absolutely. And because the Democrats do a good job of this, in terms of pushing forth their programs and so forth. And we just hope that we can do as well for the Republicans. But we talk it out. As I indicated before I got on the board, 97% of the votes were 6-0. Now we have a lot of good 6 votes, but they're very good. The Republicans are not caving anymore.
You don't have a sense of who Voss might choose at all?
I would certainly welcome Justice Gableman on the commission. He's hugely knowledgeable on election law. So I don't know. It's Speaker Voss will make his his decisions on it, but I have not heard that yet.
Speaking with Commissioner Bob Spindell, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
A reminder before we move on, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported last fall that Michael Gableman himself, who is running the Assembly investigation of the 2020 election, said he didn't understand how elections are supposed to work. His exact quote, "Most people, myself included, do not have a comprehensive understanding or even any understanding of how elections work." When we come back, I'm talking to someone who has years of experience running local elections and has asked Robin Vos to consider appointing her to fill the gap from Knutson's resignation.